leads her own business and has a background in branding and marketing. But she will be coming in the next few sessions. I also have with me Rishi Wadhwa. He's a 1995 batch alum, and he's currently the general secretary of the alumni committee. Gunjan is the vice president. We have Parinay. He's the 2005 batch alum, and he's the vice president of the committee today. And then we have our speaker, our distinguished guest for today, and our speaker, Saurabh Bansal. Saurabh Bansal is my batchmate. We've studied together, and obviously I'll be giving you more details about Saurabh. Just before giving those details, I'll just tell you a few things about the initiative. So this is a Men and Women of Substance initiative, which has been launched today. This session is the second session. We had one session in the morning for the commerce students. So the whole idea behind this session is to get our alums who are very successful in very different fields and working all throughout the world to come and speak to you, come and speak to the students of our school, and help them understand their journey, what they've gone through to reach where they are, how did they make out in the real world, how are they making a living, and what helped them stand apart. So the common thread has been the school, the guidance that the school has given. And believe me, and you will appreciate it once you go out, every guy or every girl who comes from now on to speak are only coming back because they believe the part the school, that is Bal Bharati Pitampura, has played in their lives. And that's a huge, huge part. All these are coming and spending their time just to give back. There is nothing involved for them. And they are only doing this because they believe that school is what made them today and had a big role to play in their lives. So that is something that we are having, and next few weeks will be very interesting. Everyone will have different aspirations in life. Some want to be a doctor, some want to be an entrepreneur, some want to do engineering. And we'll try to cover all these things. We have alumni who are working in the fields of nanotechnology, cutting edge research. We have alumni who are artists and they did engineering. We have lawyers who got converted into businessmen. So we have all sorts of people who were very good in their fields, very good in studies, or average in their studies and still made a mark in the world. And they will be coming and speaking to you and telling you about their experience so that you guys can learn, get motivated, and also get to know what footsteps they followed and try. If that is something you want, it will possibly shorten your path to reach that level. So I think we are already 80 or so students. I think Beena ma'am, Namrata ma'am, should we start or wait for 5 minutes or so?
Tanveer, good evening, Tanveer.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
I want to welcome Saurabh. Saurabh, it's such a pleasure to have you with us, and it's a moment of great pride that a Bal Bhartian comes back as a very successful entrepreneur, and he's going to address his juniors who look up to him. And this is a special moment, a beautiful launch of this program that the alumni have taken responsibility of. I'm really proud of each one of you, and we look forward to your session today. And thank you, children, for joining in. I hope the others join in too. Thank you, all my colleagues, for joining in. I'm looking forward to each and every word that Saurabh is going to say and what Tanveer is going to add to. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think students, you can tell your friends to join. Today will be an interesting session. So I'll just introduce our speaker. So Saurabh is our alum and my batchmate. I connected with him after long during our last year reunion. But as I say, so he's been there and he's done that. He's lived an aspirational life. You talk about getting through IIT, yes, he's done that. You talk about getting through IIM, yes, he's done that. You talk about starting your own business, yes, he's done that. And you talk about making it successful, yes, he has done that. So what led him from school to engineering and engineering to MBA and then starting this business? Let's deep dive into that and learn what we can. You are free to put any questions on the chat. Don't worry. anything very simple, very commonsensical, also please ask, and we'll be happy to answer all of them. So, Saurabh, if you can just take over and take us through your journey, what made you, who like brought you here today, and how are things?
Great. Thank you, Tanveer. Thank you, Sonia ma'am, for the very humbling and flattering introduction. I'm not sure I'm worthy for half the praise that he's spoken about. And but I'd like to thank the school principal ma'am, vice principal ma'am, the alumni association for the initiative. I was last in school almost 15 years back, and personally for me, it's a privilege and an honor, to be connected to the school and contribute in any small way that I can. And I would also like to congratulate the alumni team for the idea behind this initiative. I can remember when I was in school, I wanted to be someone different every day. And I would get influenced by friends, family, relatives, neighbors. So, to have somebody objective and impartial who can just share his personal experiences around career choices, I think I would have found useful in school. And as we say in science and statistics, we work on data points. The more data points we have, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions. So by means of this session, all we hope to do is to be able to give you more data points for you to be able to make your own career choices. And, in this session, I don't mean to, and I hope I don't preach. I only intend to share experiences and attempt to answer any questions that, you guys would have. So, and as an introduction, I'm an engineer by education. I graduated from IIT Roorkee in 2006. Post engineering, I did my MBA from IIM Bangalore in 2013. Post MBA, I worked with a global management consulting firm for a couple of years. And about 5 years back, I decided to take the so-called entrepreneurial leap and start my own company. In school, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do in life. So, scores in class 10 were good. So science was deemed to be the default choice. And once you're in non-medical, IIT seemed to be something everybody wanted to do. So all my friends wanted to get into an IIT. My family wanted me to get into IIT. So I believed I wanted to go there too. And this idea then took the shape of an obsession where I thought, IIT is the end all. And what will my family say? What will my relatives say, if I don't make it and if I don't get in? So, we'll speak more about that. And, and we'll speak about engineering as a field, and we'll take in questions around engineering that any of you might have. We can also take in, speak a little bit about, post-graduation as far as management education is concerned, MBA, CAT, GMAT, and things like that. And then finally, we can speak in general about entrepreneurship and healthcare more specifically.
So, but let's start sort of with how were you in school? What kind of a student you were, and extracurricular or generally, how were you in school?
I don't know, Raman sir, what kind of a student was I?
Excellent student, always.
He's being very kind and polite, But from what I remember, distinctly, I really enjoyed science. So science and problem solving was something that I was always fascinated by. I was not good at music or sports or any extracurriculars. So science was something that I would do generally, while not studying as well. So it is something that I felt I was really passionate about. And at that time, I thought, would want to build a career in as well. So in school, you build a foundation for principles of science and, take it forward and hope to build on it during your higher education in engineering or post-graduation when you do your MSc or MTech or, things like that. But the foundations of science and, the first principles that, we always speak about is something that you build a foundation for in school. And that's something that's really, really important. So in school, what I remember was, being very fond of science, very fond of tech, very fond of, reading. And, that I think got translated into, future career choices also.
Great. And so just like every student out there aspiring to be an engineer, aspiring for IIT, I think you followed the same path. So if you can take us through that journey, what, why, how of it, and what were your learnings out of that entire thing all the way up to your MBA and so on, and that impacted your life?
Sure. As I said, IIT was something that everybody around me wanted to, get into. My family wanted it desperately. All my friends were studying really, really hard, to get there. And it became a matter of pride for everybody around me. So, and since everybody around me was obsessed with it, I thought it must be something that's, really important. And, you start fearing that way if everybody is, so focused and wants something so desperately, it is something that's really important. Interestingly, in this whole process, I actually never thought about, what an engineer does or why I want to be an engineer. If you ask me today, and it goes back to, liking science and, the concepts of science, it could just as easily be in a career in, sciences. Uh, I don't know why I became an engineer. A simple answer would be because everybody around me wanted to become an engineer and wanted to get into IIT. So, we did that. I did that as well. I was one of the fortunate, few to get through. And while when inside IIT, the environment is very different. Uh, you have enough space to create a niche of your own and explore whatever area you would want. A lot of my friends have gotten into IITs to become engineers, but have started doing something very different. While in IIT and during the 4 years of engineering as well. Some of them have, really take up sciences, really take up technology and build a career out of that. Some of them start working on their ideas towards entrepreneurship, and some get more clarity as to what they would want to do in, higher education. So for me personally, an IIT gave me the space to really pursue sciences and technology in the depth and to the extent that I would have wanted to. So, IITs are equipped with world-class, laboratories, technological facilities. There is no equipment that you would want to work with and is not available. There is no literature, no research paper that you would want to read and is not available in the, the library. So if you really want to study science, technology, it is the absolute place to be. Having said that, it's a 4-year course. So the first 2 to 3 years, you have the freedom to do whatever you would want, whatever you want, be it academics, or extracurriculars or sports or anything. Last 2-3 years, people start focusing more on competitive examinations and higher studies, whether it is in the sciences, where you would want to do an MSc or an MTech, or in management, where you would want to do an MBA, either in India or abroad. So 3rd year onwards, I started preparing for entrance examinations, for GMAT and CAT. Was again fortunate enough to score well in both. So I got through the prestigious London School of Business in the UK, and a few IIMs in India, including IIM Bangalore. At that stage, I made a conscious, career decision, career choice that I want to, work in India, build my career in India. Whatever I would want to do, I would want to do in my country. So I decided not to go abroad, and and joined IIM Bangalore, and did my 2-year course there. And yeah.
Perfect. So just summarizing few points. So this is just so that all the students are also. So you've touched upon peer pressure actually making a huge impact in your decision making. So in the morning session also we emphasized on this from we had the alumni from 96 batch, and one of the points of emphasis was this, that you need to be clear why you are choosing a particular field or a particular career. And obviously, Saurabh's time was 15 years back. We graduated 15 years back. Today, the world is totally different. The kind of resources the students today have to their disposal, the kind of experience that you have to your disposal is huge, right? In our age, obviously, just forget my age. I have my colleagues from the alumni colleagues here who graduated in 95 and 97. So just imagine what they had. So today there's a huge wealth of exposure available to you, and the best way to find whether this is something you want to do is pick up what you're passionate about and spend some time with people from that industry. So, okay, you aspire to be an IITian, you aspire to be an IIM guy, but what is it you want after that? We'll be touching upon those points today in the next half an hour. But just one key takeaway that I want you to have from the conversation till now is spend some time, find the people around you who are either your friends, your family friends, or your seniors or your alumni, and spend some time with them. Don't take decisions on peer pressure. Don't take decisions on family pressure. That is the most important thing, because if you don't love what you're doing, all that goes to waste. So Saurabh, if you understand from Saurabh's journey, he did IIT, he did IIM, but today he's doing something totally different. So there is a huge wealth of experience that he'll be sharing now, but keep these things in mind, that decisions cannot be from peer pressure or family pressure. Decisions should be on your capability. And our purpose here is to help you find those passions. Understand from the alumni, we will be institutionalizing some more areas where you can spend time with people in different industries who are alumni so that you learn more. But in the meanwhile, till we do that, spend time with them, spend a day with them, don't speak, just observe what they do, what their life is about. And that's how you will understand whether this kind of a work life is cut for you or not, right? So finding a passion is an important thing. And as Saurabh said, his key passion was science. Lucky enough to crack IIT, smart enough to crack IIT, but his key passion was science. That made him sustain and do well in IIT. So I still have a lot of friends who got through IIT but not cut out for it because their passion was not there. And a lot of friends who had passion could not make it to IIT, made it to a tier 2 college or made it to a tier 3 college. And they will also be coming to speak to you, and they are today at the top of their fields. So IIT is not the end. For sure, if your passion is science, this is the best today. But if your passion is science and you can't make it for some reason, that's not the end of the world, because you know what your passion is and you will make your path. Maybe 1 year later than the guys who are at IIT, maybe 2 years later than those guys, but you will make your path, and we will have alumni who've actually graduated from tier 3 colleges come and talk to you saying how today they are at the top of their field. You will be able to Google them and find their names. So it's not the end. So this is important to find your passion. So Saurabh, if you move to the next point, so you did IIM, right? Again, I'm pretty sure that was what everyone was doing, and that was your reason as well. But what was one or two instances during that journey of 6 years which said, ki, okay, yaar, this is not for me. I need to do something more. What was it?
So I'll just elaborate a little bit more on what you just said, Tanveer. One about having a passion, finding your passion. So I believe we only have students from the sciences, right, in the session.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you one of the few lucky ones who have been able to identify a passion and been able to identify what they're really passionate about, excellent. What I also want to say is that to not have a passion right now, to not have a great deal of clarity as to what you want to do in life, what your career, what you want to build a career in, is also absolutely okay. You're at a very young age right now. You have your whole career ahead of you, and in every step of your career, you have an opportunity or an opportunity to for a journey of self-discovery. So there'll be instances, there'll be experiences that will help you decide what you want to do in life. And for those of you who have a passion also, most likely, it will keep changing with time. I'm sure, Tanvi didn't know that he would want to do this, 14, 15 years down the line. I didn't know I wanted to do this 14, 15 years, ago. So it's okay to be confused. It's absolutely okay to not have a great deal of clarity. All you need to do is be open to, ideas, and be open to introspection, and see, what gives you joy, or what gives you, happiness. If it's problem solving, that, really excites you, a career in engineering, a career in sciences is likely for you to be able to, give you a fulfilling career. Uh, you should just not do something because people around you are doing something, right? Uh, I mean, what is an IIT is just an engineering college. Like, just that there are so many engineering colleges, in the country. But what people should really question is that what is an engineer? The dictionary definition of an engineer is a person who designs, builds, engines, machines, or structures. Is this something that, you're passionate about, that you would want to do, or is this a journey that you would want to take in the path of self-discovery, or in the process of, being able to identify what you would want to do in life? So all I want to say is that it's okay to be confused. Uh, you know, go with whatever you feel right now. If you feel that, hey, science is problem solving, is something that I really enjoy. Solving an equation in mathematics, doing a very complicated differential problem really excites you, really, gives you joy. Then go for a career in mathematics, go for a career in engineering, and be open to, adapting yourself, changing your career choices as, things progress, or as you take your career journey. But think about, in academics, what excites you, what gives you joy and happiness.
Very well said. Very well said. So I think students can take away at least two things from last few sentences that Saurabh said. What gives you joy is what you keep on doing, and that is what will lead you to success. And if you have to pivot, if you don't know what you're doing, don't be disheartened. Life is a set of experiences, set of stories, which lead you to where you have to reach or will reach. As long as you are enjoying the journey, it will be fruitful and it will be successful. So Saurabh, just taking you now, so you've done your MBA now. You actually had a very successful placement, and after that you got into the job. Again, something clicked, something didn't click. If you can just take like 2-3 pointers there, what happened during your life in the traditional job environment?
Sure. Uh, See, my few takeaways were that an MBA is more of an application, based course of management. It teaches you business concepts, but more importantly, you need to understand how those concepts are applied to real life business problems. So, as a precursor to that, if there is an opportunity, or if conditions are favorable for that, I would recommend having some work experience before you actually do an MBA. That is my personal recommendation, because when you're working, either in a job or in any other capacity, you encounter real life business problems. You look at things very differently, and when you are able to learn concepts around that, you can straight away associate them with problems that you faced in life and how to apply them. It is just not a concept that you've learned, in a book and have stored it somewhere that you will apply later on. So one, I would recommend that, if you have an option of doing that, do get some work experience, a year, couple of years before you do an MBA. Your MBA experience will be much more fulfilling and much more rewarding if that happens. Secondly, in a corporate job or in a corporate setup, you learn a lot from your team, your colleagues, your, people superior to you, your managers, your bosses. every day they teach you, something new, and not just something, which is directly related to your job in terms of soft skills, in terms of communication, everything. You look up to, your bosses, your managers, and you learn, things from them. So it's very, very enriching or fulfilling to work in a corporate setup till the point that you feel that, you're learning something or you're growing, uh, either technically or
You,
otherwise.
you were with BCG,
Uh,
Grant Thornton.
Yeah, so I was with Grant Thornton, which is a professional services firm. They specialize in taxation accounting. I was in a small team that focused on management consulting. It was a strategic services group. So we devised operating market entry strategies for small to mid-sized enterprises in India. So that, as I said, was a very good experience because in MBA we had learned, how to analyze, let's say, financial ratios, right? What is a profit and loss account? What ratios are important for understanding performance or prospects of companies. When you work in consulting, you actually get to apply that because that is what you're, pitching to companies. Then you prepare financial models, work on financial ratios for them, and make projections for them. So you see concepts that you would have learned in MBA actually coming in handy that you can apply in real life, in real problems. So that is Grant Thornton. In BCG, it's a management consulting firm for much larger clients. So almost exclusively, the company provides services to Fortune 500 companies. So there, it's a whole different ball game because you are given charge of a project and you have to drive that project for a very, very large company from end to end. So it involves soft skills like motivating senior people from a client office who have been working in a position for 40 years. So how do you tell somebody who's 55 years old, close to his retirement, that hey, you should not be doing your job like this, you should be doing like this. It's the impulsive thing for that person to say is that hey, ये कल का लड़का आके अब हमें सिखाएगा, or what qualifies this person to give me advice about all of these things. And they're being very sound in terms of your numbers, your business fundamentals really helps because you come from practical, theoretical, hard numbers. And to motivate these people, to encourage these people to actually be receptive so that they can listen in and implement what you're advising them is something that I at least learned in management consulting with BCG.
Yeah, but what? Sorry, I just so what was the instance during your working which actually led you to healthcare?
Very simply, Tanvir, I missed sciences. So consulting, you never go down to the basic sciences or the nitty-gritties of technology as such. And I missed working on scientific problems. So that was something that I thought that I could add more value in, and that's something that I just wanted to get back to. So healthcare as an area, at that time, the specific idea that we were working on, was in hibernation for many years before I could actually get the strength to take the leap and start the enterprise. Because there are a number of things that point you have to take into consideration. There are obviously financial implications that you need to be prepared for. When you're working, you're in a comfortable place. You have a steady flow of income. And when you're starting off on your own, you have to invest your own money, invest your own time, and invest your career into something. So it needs a lot of conviction, and it needs a lot of daring, so to say. So, as is very commonly said in entrepreneurship circles, is that, starting your own company is like, jumping off a cliff and then learning how to, assemble a parachute or to make a parachute. So it's very much like that. When I started off, it was just an idea that I thought had potential and was just something that I thought that, I could be really passionate about and would want to invest my life in. So to be more specific, we started our company, Unexo Life Sciences. We work on pharmaceutical products, and we specialize in pain management, the muscle pains, joint pains, topical pains, So we make products for pain management. When I was working in consulting, I could see people, especially senior citizens, my grandparents, suffer from these aching, pains, knee pains, back pains, joint pains, and there being a dearth of very good quality products that actually make a difference, for that. And then what I could also see is that, young people like us, driving down from work every day, from your home to your office. And at the end of the day, you would start getting neck pains and back pain. You would not get enough exercise. Your posture would be all wrong. So that was one area that I thought that, we could actually build very good products on. What I was really fortunate at that time was to have a very good team in place that was really good in tech. So we were able to get together, people who were PhDs, people who had tens of years of research experience, R&D experience in world-class laboratories and pharmaceutical companies come on board and be equally passionate about the idea. So, just the concept of the idea at that time and missing sciences, I think were the main motivating factors for me to have the strength to quit and start, my own company.
Perfect. So thanks for sharing. So I'll just summarize a few pointers going back for the students. So one important point that you shared was MBA should not just be done for the heck of it. You should actually have some experience and your MBA will be more rewarding. So that's something actually very important, because the same thing is something that I also went through personally, that a lot of us today, you will see IIT key, then immediately you go for an MBA and you just say, okay, IIT MBA is a short job. If that's your thing, that you want just a job, okay, please go ahead, because that's a choice that you're making. But if you actually want meaning out of an MBA, and if you also understand what Saurabh said, if you actually want meaning, it will be great help if you're able to actually get some work X, get an experience of how a company works, what are the different departments in a company, and then when you go for an MBA, you will relate every single thing that is there and that they're teaching. Immediately after school to IIT or any college and then to an MBA without having any industry exposure, MBA is not rewarding. And that will also show in your placements. So yes, an IIT IIM grad has a good placement, but you will see that your peers who are actually having experience will be higher rated than the people who will not be having experience. So it's a choice. I'm not saying one is better than the other. Choose according to what your life goals are. And then accordingly, you have to take a decision. So also one important point here that I forgot to mention was that networking. So if you understand that all throughout Saurabh's talks, he pointed out there are a lot of people that he met in IIT. There are a lot of people that he met during IIM. And that's the same thread that you will also have to know, that throughout your journey of college or school, make sure that you network. And you network with people who will actually add value to your life. So that is very important. So I mentioned the same thing in the morning, and I'm mentioning it right now also. You are actually an average of the 5 people you spend time with. So make sure you choose those people wisely. That is very important. You need to choose your peers, your mentors, your friends wisely while you are in this journey, because they will decide what the outcome of your studies and of your career will be. So networking is a very important part. If you're not able to network during your college, during your MBA time, it's actually an opportunity lost. So having said that, another point that I would want to mention here is, what do you say? Yeah, so Saurabh went through consulting as an experience. So a lot of MBA guys you will see are going into consulting, and a lot of students would hear, okay, consulting. Consultants earn a lot, consultants travel a lot, all these things are happening. But you should understand what consulting is. Consulting is basically working with different companies and working on their processes. And again, for some people, it is just giving gyan. For some people, it is actually they're able to do something meaningful. So choose wisely there as well. Don't blindly say, okay, I want to be a consultant. There are, in India, consultant is an abused word, unfortunately. India, if someone, India, in my field, so I come from a field where, so I'm actually from the renewable as well as electric vehicle field. In our field, a consultant, even with 1 year experience, the person calls himself a consultant. So just understand what these people are talking about and stick to your passion and stick to your core. Your meanings of choice should be right. That's what we are trying to say. Okay, and giving you this idea that while you are planning for your MBA, CAT is an option, GMAT is also an option. So if you feel that after work experience, you will not be able to study because a 1 year gap or a 2 year gap will take you from that rhythm of studying, no problem. While you are doing your engineering, give your GMAT. The GMAT score is valid for 5 years. You can give it while you are studying your engineering, and you can still take experience and get into a good college. So don't worry about these things, but there are options available. Keep your eyes open and we'll be there for you whenever you have questions. So coming back to the key point, Saurabh. So healthcare is where you chose. Now, if you can just take, so today's topic is your life experience, your learnings, and also what healthcare is all about today, because there are a lot of students who might be interested in this job, in this field, or a lot of students who did not know that healthcare is an option, considering the scope in India or considering the competitive landscape in India. So if you can take us through what healthcare as a industry is, what are the opportunities in India, and if there is, so also please cover one point, that if a student today wants to just explore whether engineering is their passion or MBA is their passion or healthcare is their passion, what are the avenues or resources you advise them? So I think this is what, Saurabh, is the slide okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So, so healthcare in general, I'll take the last bit first, Tanvi, on, I think our country or the world is at a time where healthcare could not be more relevant. That's all you hear about, read about, see on the news, or people are speaking about, and so there, I mean, that you need no more motivation to be actually, speak, or I don't need to speak about healthcare at a time like this where that's all that people seem to be, talking about right now. But broadly speaking, healthcare, Tanvir, are the slides visible for everyone?
Yeah, they are available for everyone. Can you see it?
I can't see them, but I have a copy with me.
So, no, just a second. Just a second. Then.
We are not able to see this. Now we are.
Okay.
Sure. So broadly, when we talk about healthcare, there are 4 categories or 4, kinds of businesses. The first are hospitals and caregiving facilities. Either public hospitals. These includes hospitals, nursing homes, large facilities, small facilities, whether government or private. So any hospital or caregiving facilities that is in the business of providing, the service of healthcare is, classified in the first category. Firms like us that are into pharmaceutical products and biotechnology products, are the second kind. So there is a race to find a vaccine for coronavirus across the world. I know that, people who had not heard that there was an organization that ICMR are now watching news conferences by, the head of ICMR, the health secretary every day. So, any firm that is into manufacturing medicines, vaccines, biotechnology products are, in the second category. Medical devices are, anything from your routine thermometers, blood pressure monitors, blood sugar monitors, to what is also very relevant these days, diagnostic kits. There has been a lot of news, a lot of coverage around testing kits for, COVID patients, and it's actually fascinating because from news it's actually for the first time that at least I have seen, the news is actually teaching you concepts of science. So you could, you have people or news anchors explaining to you what are antigens, what are antibodies, what are surface proteins. So these things are, very relevant at a time like this. And the fourth category are, services. So your healthcare insurance companies, diagnostic labs, clinical research. So all of these are firms that are into, healthcare services. Now these are four subcategories or sub-industries, so to say. But each of these sub-industries, you can actually have an option of working in, different sectors or different functions. So the first is manufacturing. If we manufacture pharmaceutical products, so we have a physical factory that makes, medicines, that makes pharmaceutical products. So that's core manufacturing. There are firms that specialize in research and development only. So you would have heard about, US firms like Moderna, and firms in India, Biocon, Zydus Cadila, that are doing research and development, whether it be around a drug or a vaccine or, biotechnology research. So all of these are R&D focused companies. There are also functions around marketing. So, for selling the products that you make. So these can be either prescription products or over-the-counter products. So very simply put, prescription products are what you need a doctor to, put on a prescription that you need to take to a chemist or a pharmacy and purchase that. And over-the-counter is something that is discretionary and you can buy, from anywhere. The other function is around sales and distribution. So once the drug product or vaccine is manufactured, available, how do you get it to people? How do you get it to pharmacies? How do you get it to hospitals? The logistics around it. These days, over the past couple of years, e-commerce companies that in this space have done really well. Firms like 1mg, NetMeds, PharmEasy, so on and so forth. And the final category are services. People who are into regulatory compliances and things like that. So broadly, when we speak about a career in healthcare, odds are that you would be looking at an intersection of table 1 and table 2. So either you could be looking for a career in hospitals, but you would be working in the marketing vertical. You could be working in a hospital, but you'll be working in a logistics vertical. You'll be working in a pharma company, you'll be working in the R&D department. Pharma company, you'll be on the field visiting doctors, telling them about the product and, asking them to write prescriptions for it. So it is most likely to be an intersection of table 1 cross table 2. So that's just a broad idea about, what healthcare is and what you can expect in a career out of healthcare. We can speak about each of these in detail or in a brief about each of these.
Yeah. So I think quickly we'll just I would try to focus it and then you can cover it up.
Sure.
If you can focus the discussion on these areas and these sectors, that if the student want to make a career in these fields, considering healthcare has suddenly boomed world over, so what is the path that they can take, and how do they know which areas to specialize in, and when does specialization actually come for them, like after college or after some experience? How do they choose that path?
Specialization obviously would come in much later, Tanveer. But what I would very actively encourage everybody to do is to, especially at a time like these, is to either in an organized way or unorganized way pursue internships with either pharmaceutical companies or hospitals virtually, or people who do medical devices services, and it can be in any capacity. I think an internship with any such firm in healthcare would give you a real understanding of what these people are doing on ground. Hospitals, we've all been going to hospitals. We've we've met doctors there. We've probably had procedures done there. But it's what happens behind the scenes in a hospital to make it, to keep it running 24 hours is phenomenal. The amount of, from the point you walk into the hospital to the point you walk out, there are hundreds of processes that have been set up that are continuously being monitored. being updated. So what is happening behind the scenes in each of these verticals, is phenomenal. So an opportunity to learn that, to see that firsthand, I think can be best accomplished at this time, or maybe when you are in your college first year, second year, is via internships. So I would really encourage everybody to actively look for internships. There's no shame in, or in just writing an email. Write emails to companies, to people offer yourself to help in whatever way they would want. I know pharmaceutical companies these days are really short-handed, are really short of staff. So you would need people to review research papers, for example, or study research papers, make marketing communications around products. So I think, and this is where we need, or everybody, all my colleagues in the industry, we all find ourselves needing a helping hand, and it could be a win-win for everybody. So actively reach out to people, write emails to people, in pharma, in hospitals, people who are into medical devices. Offer yourself to help in whatever way you can, and
One
see.
thing-
Yeah.
Sorry. One thing, Saurabh. So I see that you have other slides as well. So maybe you
Yeah.
can quick take the students through them.
Sure.
And also if you can mention, so there are students from non-medical as well. There are students from medical background. Some have maths, some don't have maths. So an understanding there also will be helpful. Like you did engineering and now you are into a field where traditionally sitting at my position, I will think, yeah, if I don't have biology as a course, I cannot do that. Right? For just giving an
Right.
example for matter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe you can just help students understand that if they actually want to do be in the pharmaceutical industry, right?
Sure.
If they've done biology, these are the things that they can do. If they've not done biology, and then still pharmacy is actually a career they can make, because they can go through the marketing and the sales route. So maybe some guidance there while you are covering these in detail.
So the only thing that if you don't have biology, you cannot do is become a doctor, or write prescriptions or do surgeries or procedures. Other than that, the world is your oyster. You can do anything in healthcare. I didn't have biology, and I'm working with a pharmaceutical company, making drug products, making pharmaceutical or making medicines. So the only thing, if you don't have biology, the only thing that's not an option for you is become a doctor or become a surgeon or prescribe medicines. Other than that, you can do anything. In hospitals and caregiving facilities, and I'll speak about all of these only from an entrepreneurial perspective. That if you're looking to build a career in this facility, or in this sector, from an entrepreneurial perspective. So hospitals and caregiving facilities, if you're looking to build a career there, some things that you should know is that, one, it's very, very capital intensive. It's very expensive. Healthcare in our country or everywhere around the world is very expensive. So, and setting up a hospital or running a hospital or even running a primary healthcare center, it may not be a hospital. It can just be a small, a doctor's office or an OPD clinic or something that, a place where a doctor provides consultations. It's usually very capital intensive. There are excellent, very favorable demand metrics around healthcare, and our country, or nowhere in the world are there enough hospitals, especially at a time like this. All our government or people in positions of authorities, their number one worry is that what if we don't have enough hospital beds? What if we don't have enough ventilators? What if we don't have enough life-saving equipment? What if we don't have enough PPE? So things like that. So healthcare demand metrics would always be favorable. You can never have enough hospitals in the country. I don't know of any hospital that has processes, that has certified and is accredited, that is running at very low capacity, or that has beds but there are no people. So demand metrics would never be short in healthcare. In principle, the profitability metrics in healthcare are also very profitable. This is obviously a very long and complicated discussion to get into, because of insurance and how profitability works in healthcare. But broadly speaking, profitability metrics in healthcare are very favorable. What you also need to know is that healthcare in general, and this is common across all sectors in healthcare, is that it's very highly regulated and compliance heavy. So there's so many processes, that you need to, take care of. So just give you an example, in pharmaceuticals, so we have a pharmaceutical manufacturing facility. For you to be able to enter the facility and enter the factory, you need to do so many things. So our workers, for example, so the moment they step inside, there's an interlock. They need to take an air shower, then they need to sanitize themselves, then work a primary uniform, disinfect that, then walk into a secondary uniform, walk into an interlock air shower, and then actually be able to get inside the facility. So as far as compliances, especially when you're dealing in export-oriented products, it's a very, very highly regulated and compliance-heavy, industry to be in.
Tanvir, I have a question to Saurabh.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Saurabh, since you're into healthcare services, and you know the field so well, where do you think we stand as a country in the wake of, what's happening around us with COVID-19? How sound are we with our healthcare services? Are we sound as we claim to be, or we are actually not really prepared?
I didn't catch that very clearly, ma'am. I got bits of it.
Okay, Saurabh, can you hear me now?
Slightly better, ma'am.
Okay, what I'm saying is that since you're into healthcare services, how would you rate the country in terms of our preparation for COVID-19? The way it's spreading, how sound are we with our healthcare services?
So COVID-19 or coronavirus as a situation has never happened before. It's a pandemic of proportions that the world has never seen before. So to expect anybody to be prepared for something like this is unrealistic and unfair to some extent. Compared to other countries, I think the government has done a phenomenal job in adapting itself, regulating, making policies around that, and giving us a fair shot of getting through this. The lockdown per se was very important. We needed to buy time. We needed our time to ramp up hospitals, get equipment in, get testing kits in. Because when it started in February or March, we didn't have a single testing kit in our country. And if suddenly in a week's time you have hundreds of thousands of positive cases reporting symptoms, you just don't have the infrastructure to or the capability to take care of them. So what the government did with the 40-day lockdown or the 45-day lockdown was buy time and help our doctors, hospitals, medical practitioners to be prepared for this. Unfortunately, the pandemic or what's happening with the virus is not going away, tomorrow. We need to be prepared for it to be around. What has happened in the background is that fortunately hospitals are now prepared, to take care of patients who report symptoms. There's enough personal protection equipment available for the doctors themselves not to get infected. There are enough testing kits available. The government is doing a phenomenal amount of testing to ensure that the people who are infected get diagnosed and then get treated as per the protocols. So we're doing better than most countries, ma'am. But as I said, this is an unprecedented time. This has never happened before. So we're all learning on the fly. We're all, making strategies on the move. So compared to other countries, we're in a much better place. We're much better equipped to deal with this pandemic now. And, let's hope that things get better soon.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you.
Perfect.
And
So,
so in
yeah,
pharma, this is where we work in. So we, have a pharmaceutical manufacturing, firm. So we actually make medicines. Medicines are of two kinds. As I said, they can be over the counter or they can be prescription. To do or to set up a manufacturing facility also is very capital intensive. It takes up a lot of money to set up a brick and mortar facility for making pharmaceuticals. Uh, it has always had excellent export opportunities. As I said, it's also pharmaceuticals in general has a very favorable demand metrics, and exports out of India, have always been thriving. I don't know if people know that India is the largest exporter of prescription products, to most of the regulated markets in the world, including the United States, United Kingdom, the European Union. And in fact, in the United States, India exports more pharmaceutical products than all other countries, do put together in, certain scheduled drugs. So it's also very highly regulated, very compliance heavy. So you need to be prepared to do a lot of paperwork, to be prepared, for a lot of regulations to come your way if you decide to build a career in, pharma and biotechnology. So medical devices is very similar to pharma. It's only that instead of pharmaceutical products, you're dealing in physical devices. So these can also be simple instruments like your blood sugar monitors, thermometers, blood pressure monitors, to more complicated medical devices. The route for medical devices is one that you can buy medical devices from pharmacies, but most of the business in medical devices happens via institutions. So, for example, COVID-19 test kits. So the government, I think till date, has consumed upwards of 500,000, testing kits from one single manufacturer. So, testing kits, either you can sell in pharmacies or by institutions. It's competitive because of competition from other countries, but quality products have always found their space in medical devices. And the other 2 points are common to the previous slides. It's also capital intensive, highly regulated. Services is something that has come up in the past couple of years or the past few years. Uh, Insurance, both in the private sector as well as through the government schemes like Ayushman Bharat and other insurance schemes that state governments have, has really picked up. Our aim is to have everybody in the country insured, so that the taxes that you pay, there should be enough healthcare infrastructure for you to be able to get quality healthcare close to your home. Diagnostics, diagnostic. There are diagnostic labs, that do your blood cultures, urine cultures, and things like that. There's clinical research, what is being talked about a lot right now. The race for a coronavirus vaccine, the race for a drug. So all of this comes in clinical research. Again, very favorable demand metrics. Operational excellence is very, very important when you do, when you are into healthcare services. So if you, I don't know, how many of you have had any experience, in seeing operations in a hospital. But there are thousands of patients, there are thousands of insurance claims, there is, thousands of test reports that you need to keep on file. There can be no mix-ups of, one with the other. You can't attach somebody else's test report with somebody else's file. And everything happens at a super fast speed because it's a matter of life and death. So operational excellence is very, very important, when you work in healthcare. So this is just to give you a broad idea as to what healthcare is about. What should you keep a lookout for if you want to build a career in healthcare? And I mean, if you have any specific questions around that, I'll obviously be happy to take them now or
perfect.
afterwards.
Thank you. So I think we have few more minutes. I will just summarize these points for the students. So students will have very simple questions. Yeah, I'm interested in healthcare, but I don't know what to do. Great, no worries. Just do what you're doing. Even if it's engineering, you want to get into marketing, you want to get into hardcore pharmacy, you want to get into research. There are multiple multiple avenues to choose from. I will just summarize a few of them. So there are doctors, then there are people who are studying biology, love biology, but cannot be a doctor. These people, because of their understanding of the terms, are actually entering the services field, are actually helping the insurance companies, are helping the pharmacy companies to sell, are doing MBA after doing biology honors, and going through the pharmacy field and supporting the pharmacy companies. Then there are people who've gone into engineering, and they are very good at mechanical engineering, they're very good at electronics engineering, they're very good at other forms of instrumentation or otherwise, and they are actually going into manufacturing of medical devices. They're working with manufacturing companies, the medical devices companies. So that's also a path for you to take up. Then there is a path that you can take, like Saurabh has done. Go through that experience, understand what the industry is, because even for entrepreneurship, there are two, and you say, okay, this is what I want to do, just go and start up. But sometimes it makes sense to actually gain that experience, know actually how to run a company, know actually how a company runs, and then take that leap. And that also gives you a time to build your nest egg. And as Saurabh said, it gives you time to build on your product and you launch it. So that's another route that you can take. So there are various routes. We'll be sharing this presentation along with certain more details as a PDF to all of you. So I just want to put down a few things. Before you choose this industry, that is the healthcare industry, as Saurabh was mentioning, you need to take care of few points. One, you are dealing with the life of the people, left or right, whether it's as a pharmacist, whether it's into hospitals. So you need to be aware of the responsibility it brings. Second, you are dealing with patients every day. You will be around sick people a lot of times. So you need to understand that you can live with it, and you need to understand and accept that. And there is obviously humbleness required. The situation in a hospital, the situation at most of these places is stressful. So you need to understand that this is fast decisions, momentary decisions that you need to take. And fourth, these are regulated environment. That means you need specialization. So that's an important point we touched in the morning as well, that today the world is about specialization. So you need to, once you've figured out that this is what you want to do, stop being a generalist and move towards specialization. It might take you 5 years, might take you 7 years, but moving towards specialization will give you a longer accomplished career than just being a generalist. So that's also a takeaway that students should have. Now, coming back to the key points, if you have questions in the meanwhile, you can please post them, and accordingly we'll answer them. So coming to the point related to how do you choose your college and how do you choose your course? So Saurabh, you can correct me and just jump in wherever you want. But
Yep.
From my experience, as I said, choosing an engineering college or choosing a medical college should be a choice based on your passions. And passion can change, but at least enjoy what you're doing till then. If you want to actually go for the consulting fields, as Saurabh has experienced, yes, MBA is a must. And MBA with an experience adds to your career. And while you are studying, you can give your GMAT exams and gain that, just keep that score with you handy while you take that experience. And second, if you want to get into the consulting field, you can actually do the biology doctor plus MBA route as well, which a lot of people are taking today. There are doctors out there who feel that they can better serve the community by going into management. And with their medical degree and the management experience, they actually make a very, very scarce resource and a very, that's a much in demand. So that's another route that you can take. At the same time, don't be disheartened if you don't get to the best of the colleges. If you are still passionate about working in the healthcare industry, there are many avenues, as Saurabh has just shown you. You can still contribute to the society. You can still help the sick. You can still make a difference in this world. Maybe just not as a doctor, but you can actually go into and do a lot of things. So keep that in mind. The focus should be on passion. And believe me, there are a lot of people who followed their passion in this industry and are not doctors, are still earning the same and have a better quality of life as well. So it's up to you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
And
you
just
need
to
to
pitch in
choose.
here, Tanvi,
Yeah.
you know, as you said, you know, getting into an IIT or getting into AIMS, you know, is in no way an end all. You know, not being able to get through select few colleges should absolutely in no way dishearten you know, or discourage you from pursuing a career that you're really passionate about. As I said, you know, if you're passionate about sciences, you know, there is an argument that, you know, engineering is probably not even, you know, the preferred route. There are excellent, you know, science institutions in the country that you can pursue basic sciences with and, you know, specialize in. What you do in your career, at least in my personal experience, is more contingent on, you know, your post graduation and what you do, you know, after graduation in your second college. And you know, there is nowhere does it say that, you know, hey, if you don't get into an IIT, you won't get into, you know, a top post grad institution either here or abroad. I have friends who have not been lucky enough to get into an IIT, but have, you know, gone on to fantastic postgrad institutions. I've had friends who, you know, who have not been able to, you know, make it into their choice of medical colleges, but have still made fantastic doctors and are in, you know, phenomenal positions of responsibilities right now. So this is just a very small step in your journey. This is in no way the last step. You know, believe me, you know, the world will not come crashing down if you perform badly in an examination. Try
Yeah.
to do
So
your best, you know, try to be motivated, you know, keep a calm head, do your best in an examination. But in case you don't do well, or, you know, one exam day doesn't go well, the world will not come crashing down. You know, opportunities will keep coming your way, and, you know, you'll still be able to excel in life. So
thank you. So
try,
you
but
can
don't fix it.
Thanks, Saurabh. So you can understand from Saurabh's experience, he got the golden lottery, right? He got IIT, he got IIM, but still he was not happy because he could not follow his passion. So we will actually have doctors as well coming to speak to you guys, and we'll have hardcore engineers in hardcore engineering field also coming to speak to you guys. Just wanted to couple of things from my experience. So I actually uh, the company that I'm heading, we hire a lot of engineers and MBAs. And just from my experience, I'm telling you that if someone has gone through that IIM IIT route, it's not a surety that he gets hired until and unless he can sell himself through the experience, and until and unless he can speak, until and unless he can present himself well, and until and unless his basics are strong. So
Yeah.
please be, that's very important. And an engineer from a tier 2 or a student MBA from a tier 2 college has a kick-ass skill, can actually talk, presentation is amazing, and actually is solid on fundamentals, the ethics of business, the fundamentals of business. He will always have a higher chance of being hired in today's world than an IIM guy.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, we have people working in our organization, you know, at a similar level, and, you know, we have hired people who are from, you know, an unknown engineering colleges that, you know, people not even heard about, and are at, you know, phenomenal positions of responsibility by either in our organization or other organizations, and are doing better than, you know, most engineers from IITs are. So excellence and, you know, being masters of your, you know, area or your field is much more important than just having a fancy degree tag, you know, in your resume. So there is absolutely no need to be, you know, disheartened or you know, be discouraged if just one exam doesn't go well. You know, you have your whole life ahead of you. Opportunities will
perfect.
keep coming in.
So I think so. Gunjan, problem solution is the driver. Okay. Yeah, so we'll summarize these points for you. One last nuggets. Don't come under peer pressure. Find your passion. Love what you do, right? And do what you're doing in the best possible way. And believe us, we are coming from that experience. You will have a fruitful career and a life ahead. So if there are any questions, Namrata ma'am, Sonia ma'am, Raman sir, Beena ma'am, if you can, if you have questions, please let us know. Otherwise, I think we are done with the discussion for now, and we will be sharing a ready reckoner with few pointers of takeaways from today's discussion in the PDF to be shared on the WhatsApp groups with you.
Hello, how are you, Saurabh? Very meaningful things said. Okay, as these are some of the things I've been sharing with my students, because you see so many children all going through the institutes, just like your batch would have been. Of course, it's increased over the years, and everybody having the same dream. I've also seen number of my students who've done IIT, who've done IIM, who've gone into other things. Okay, I can share the names with Tanveer. Tanveer must be knowing already so many of them. But very nice to hear from you. Lot of friends, Tanveer and Saurabh, both of you. It was great. I think the
Thank you,
students
ma'am.
can ask questions. They can write their questions if they wish.
Yeah. So now next will be if any of you want to reach to Saurabh to understand more about this industry or this career, or any question you have, you can please reach to your teacher coordinator, and we will institutionalize the system where these questions will come to us. We will have Saurabh in touch with you guys to help you out or answer your queries. You can reach your teacher coordinator and they will let us know. So we have a question, Saurabh, for you. How did you stand out in IIMs? It's good, like the competition is huge. So how did you make a niche for yourself?
Academics, Tanvi, again, having prior experience or having fundamentals very strong, always help. So if you're really good at math, or if math is something that you've really enjoyed all your life, it will always come in handy. So be it financial accounting or a statistics course in MBA, you will do well. So the first year in MBA is almost all about academics, and trying to do well, or trying to do well in your exams, in your first year exams. And after that, a number of other things start kicking in. Where did you do your summer internship from? What other organizations have you been a part of? What is your work experience prior to MBA? So there is no golden rule for standing out in IIM. The only difficult thing is that it's an incredibly competitive place to be in. Anybody who gets in, they have always excelled in academics. So nobody's actually used to coming in second, and it's all relative, inside. And when you do a course in MBA, so it's all relative grading. For you to do well, somebody needs to have done comparatively worse. So it's very difficult initially adapting to that, because you've people who have excelled all their life, and to be in a competitive environment like that is tough initially. But then what you said earlier, I think it ties into that. I think, at least in my experience, I learned more from my colleagues and my peers and my classmates than I learned otherwise in MBA. But that's also because it's a very practical course. Most of what you do or learn is in the form of projects or group discussions or live studies. So you work with a team, you learn from your team members. I had batchmates who were doctors, who had come from armed forces, who were chartered accountants, who were from a commerce background, or were engineers like me. So people coming in from all these different fields, having excelled in their own respective fields, and now trying to pursue a career in management or business. So there's a lot that you learn from each of them. And networking, or knowing these people who after MBA would most likely be near the top of their respective fields and their organizations, always helps. So right now, if you need any assistance with any company anywhere in the world, likelihood is that you would have an alumni, or you would have a an associate who works there, and it's very easy to reach out to them and ask for help, ask for guidance, ask for assistance. So I think that's really important in an MBA, to meet
So
people, to
there are
work
actually
with people.
there are three more questions. So I just thought, if you don't have accounting, does it affect your MBA studies?
No, absolutely not. They teach you accounting 101. So even if you are from engineering like me, you don't know the basics of accounting. I didn't know what a profit and loss account was, what a balance sheet was prior to my MBA. But they teach you everything from the very beginning.
Okay, so how is it possible to do internship in this age in pharma companies? Can a school student get some experience if they want to explore this sector?
Well, I don't know. Usually, the way things are structured is that you start college immediately after you finish school. But I think when in college, you will have a lot of time on hand. So I remember that after every academic year, there is at least a 2.5 to 3 months break. So feel free to write to companies. Feel free to write to people are in healthcare, and just be open to offering yourself for any kind of assistance or help that
So I'll
they might have.
I'll also take a few points on this. So now it's a good question actually, and we've been trying to do that as alumni of Balbharti, but till the time we are able to do that, yes, as school students, you can get an experience. Let's not call it an internship because let's take it that you will not have time. You are in 11th, you are in 12th. There are other things that you have to study, and your experience to contribute in this sector is not that much. So, how do you get that experience while in school? You find people, as Saurabh said, and this will hold you forever. Always feel free to write emails and LinkedIn messages to these people, connect with them, and connect with them meaningfully. It's not just ki, hello sir, how are you? I need a job. Hello sir, how are you? This is my CV. No, you connect with them meaningfully. Okay, that means engage with them on LinkedIn, understand what they are going. If you are smart enough, you will have a viewpoint on what is happening around the world. And if they post something, you will have a viewpoint there. Any which ways, try to find through your network or through LinkedIn people who are willing to offer mentorship. That tabs and that information is there. You reach them and write to them freely. Sir, I want to spend 1, 2, 3 days in your organization just as your shadow, or to see how this industry works, or just uh, sit with one of your marketing guys. You never know that they will actually say, yes, please feel free to come. We will, as alumni, try to get this started in the few weeks. It will take us some time, but we will try to get this started where we will help you get this done. So you can connect alumni who are there. If you know an alumni is in a field, you can connect me, you can connect to our alumni committee, and we will put you in touch with those guys, and we will try hard that you can actually spend a day with them in their industry to get that experience. So find that out, no problem. And it is possible, but not as an internship. Closest family, yes, as Disha has written. So find your closest family and contacts, and you can get them. And you can any which ways, any day connect to the alumni committee. If you know there is an alumni in any industry, please feel free to connect with us. We'll connect you to them and make sure that you get the experience. So last question, Saurabh, what made you give up engineering and go into management and then leave management and pursue medical sciences? Did you face any problems which made you choose make these switches?
Very interesting, actually. So, engineering, as I said, you learn engineering concepts, technology, principles of technology during your 4-year engineering course. Different people learn to apply those concepts in different ways. I always thought that, let's work on technologies that can be commercialized or technologies that can be, brought to the market. It's equally important to, build let's say our product. So one aspect of it is building the technology around a pharmaceutical drug, or building that product. But there's no use building it and just keeping it in your lab, right? After that, the challenge is to get it to market, get it to people, get it to hospitals, get it to the government, and everywhere. So for that, I thought it's very important to combine technical knowledge with management knowledge of management principles to understand how technology can be commercialized. And as I said, an MBA is a process for doing that. Working in a consulting setup also helps because you learn how a corporate setup works. how teams are structured, how does an organization structure come into play, all these things. And once you think that, okay, now I have a product, I have an idea, I have a team, I have people that I can work with, I have enough financial runway, to survive and take care of myself till, the idea takes better shape, or till the time I'm able to get it to market. It's then that you, take the plunge and decide to start things on your own.
Perfect. So I think these are all the questions. Thanks a lot, Saurabh. Thank you for your time. And we've taken a little more than what we said. So thank you, everyone.
No.
We hope this was helpful for the students. And you can let us know if you have any queries or you want certain people from certain careers. You can tell your teacher coordinators. We will get the message and we'll take it from there. Thank you all.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Sonia ma'am. Thank you, Namrata ma'am and Raman sir. Saurabh.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, being connected to you guys. It's been wonderful for me. And I know times are tough right now. It's difficult being at home and not being able to come to school or meet your friends. But all I can say is hang in there. Like all tough times, this shall too pass, and there are better days ahead.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you for that very, very informative session. As I said in the morning, this is a beautiful program that the alumni has launched for all our children. Whenever we've had career counselors, professional ones come over, children have been hesitant to ask questions. Then questions have been answered so theoretically. But to have our own children who've studied in this school and gone out and done so well in their lives, come back and tell their juniors about it, I think it's the best thing. I think this is a blessed lot that can hear you people out, that have the support anytime they want. Tanveer and team are so well connected. So agar bachon ko koi bhi questions hote, they can be forwarded to you all. I think this is beautiful. We are so, so proud of you. Thank you, Saurabh, and thank you so much, Tanveer and team.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, Tanveer.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot, Tanveer and Saurabh. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raman sir. Our meeting is long due.
Sir.
I'll come over and meet you sometime soon.
Why
sure.
only Raman?
Bye, sir.
Thank you.
Awesome, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. See you guys. Bye.
Same.
Bye-bye.